Well, hello to everybody. To those who don't know me, I'm Jacob. I lead our business development here at SignAgent, and I will be your host for today's webinar, Easy Takeoffs and Estimates in SignAgent. The great thing about this is it could help resolve so many issues during this phase of your projects and set your project up for success down the road. So keep this in mind as we go through today's webinar. Now, to introduce our presenter, David Jorritsma is the president of SignAgent, and he has more than 20 years of experience in the signage and wayfinding industry. David has helped hundreds of firms simplify the way they work with SignAgent and the SignAgent mobile survey and punch listing app. SignAgent allows you to easily and effectively collaborate between designers, fabricators, installers, end users, and facility managers for every step of any signage project. So I hope that everyone should be able to take something of value out of the webinar today. So on that note, I'll hand things over to David, who will take us through easy takeoffs and estimates in SignAgent.
Okay. So sign takeoffs are a real pain. They're time consuming, they're error prone, and you only win a fraction of them that the ones that you actually bid on. So it's frustrating. Like, what's the point, right? So I'm here to say that we think SignAgent can help you make your takeoffs and estimating easier. I'm hoping that we will be able to help you focus on planning and implementing your projects instead of spending the time on the takeoffs. I want you to be able to increase your company's revenue, increase your company's profitability, actually learn from lost bids, and then set your company apart from the competition. And all of this while spending less time estimating. So, and you've likely signed up for this webinar because you've struggled with takeoffs, and you're possibly dreading doing the next takeoff that you have to do. And you might actually even be doing it right after this webinar, or you actually may be sort of half listening to me and actually doing a takeoff right now. So actually put your hand up or do a "that's me" in the comments if that is you. And really, I take the approach of sort of tying your shoelaces before running a marathon. So we want to do things right. We want to set up a good foundation so that we can then step and repeat this for a much bigger win. Okay. So who generally performs takeoffs? And I mean, anybody along this, the users of SignAgent can be doing that in any way, but really we're going to focus sort of on the fabricator. So this is, you are trying to bid on a job and you want to do as much as you can in the least amount of time, and really be effective and accurate with that. So what is at stake? And I was saying that, revenue, reputation, profitability, and learning and sharing. So, sorry, as Jacob said, yeah, my name is David. I'm the president of SignAgent. And, you might say, David, this is all wonderful, but sign planning is complex and, estimating is difficult as well. And I'd say that I understand that. And we are really trying to, actually for the past decade, we've been coming up with solutions that make sign planning more effective and help sign planning professionals work more efficiently so that you can focus on that. So, and we're going to continue to do that into the future. So I'd love to hear your feedback. If there's things that you think we can tweak or improve in the system, we'd be happy to do that as well, because we've always said, anything that's a good wayfinding, a good suggestion and it's wayfinding related, we want to build that into the system. So, yeah, the first thing that's at stake is revenue. So, if you do the sign takeoffs correctly, you're going to increase your revenue because you're going to be able to bid on more projects, and the more projects you win, if you keep the same ratios, you're winning those projects, and that means more money, right? And then You're also going to be able to easily deliver on old or lapsed bids. So bids that you put in and you haven't heard from them for 2 to 3 years, or maybe that's a bit of a stretch, but maybe not. And then all of a sudden it comes back around and they say, okay, we want you to start working on this project. So rather than going into a manila envelope and opening it up and say, well, what did Bob do 3 years ago? And then looking at highlights in the notes and all that information. And then you're just like, oh man, how are we going to now implement this, right? So if done incorrectly, obviously you're going to decrease the revenue. So you're not going to be getting what you should be getting. You're not bidding on, or you're not winning those jobs. And again, the struggle for to deliver on those older bids that I mentioned. And then the next thing at stake is profitability. So if done correctly, you're going to increase your profitability. You're going to have accurate sign counts. So when you're adding the information into it, you're going to be able to pull that information out without having to do the counts. And then accurate sign counts means the materials that you're buying are going to be accurate, and then the labor cost is going to be accurate. So, and if done incorrectly, you're going to have a decrease in profitability. There's going to be mistakes, meaning you're making more signs than you should have, and you have to eat that cost. And then you're buying more materials and you're wasting labor. And in some cases, you're actually having to go back and do the work twice because of, say, it's a different size or whatever. So all of that is taken into account there. So the next thing is reputation. This is a big one here. We think that a takeoff is a part of a marketing differentiator. It could be for you where it makes your system stand out to the client. You can actually let them know that, yeah, this is going to be a system that we're going to be using, not only for a good estimating, but then future a handoff to the client maintaining the system after the fact, to be able to also differentiate and say, okay, well, we did this takeoff, we gave you your estimate using the system, but we can also set this system up so that it will reorder. And you're going to get professional, consistent branded message schedules, estimates, and location plans. And you can actually even, let the client in to evaluate online, or you can have, other people within the system evaluate that online as well. So the designer can come in and have a look at it. So incorrectly, you're going to be giving PDF message schedules, PDF location plans. You're not going to stand out. There's going to be nothing different other than the quality of the product. But I'm hoping that everybody is making quality signs to begin with. You're going to have a harder time repeating the projects for that same client because companies are setting them up to manage using SignAgent, and they will want to have additional projects for healthcare. Different projects inside the same healthcare system will be being used through those systems as well. And you're going to be fielding calls for reorders, and yeah, it's just going to have like unprofessional look. It can be inconsistent, so everybody does them differently. I mentioned the highlighters, the chicken scratching in the margins, the jail, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, counting the sign types. It's just error prone, and that reflects poorly on your company. And then obviously the no online evaluation tool. And then so one of these parts is I was sort of putting this presentation together, what I kind of not stumbled upon, but realized that there's the learning and sharing aspect of doing takeoffs well. So with SignAgent or system, you're able to train new employees on how to do takeoffs quite easily just by showing them previous projects. So if you're doing a multi-family residential, you can have a previous bid that was won or awarded, and you can say, these are the placements of all these signs. And when you're going to go do another one of them, you can have that already embedded into the system, or you can show that to to them. Okay, and then going one step further is if you're doing a lot of the similar work, you can actually create libraries for sign types, and I'm going to show how that's going to work in a couple of the takeoffs that I'm going to get to in a little bit. But essentially, you can say, okay, if we're doing multifamily, you can have the whole library set up as a shell, or not a shell, but like a bare bones, because you don't, the skin or the visuals of the sign are going to differ from sign to sign, but generally the elements such as like the unit number, Braille, the different things, those are all fields that are required anyways. And so I'll talk about that a little bit more after. But then we're building a knowledge base, which gets back into the new training. So you can start to look at it and look at previous jobs and say, okay, yeah, we put them on the door here. This job was in Georgia. So we can, and you can sort of follow that along. And a big part of the sharing now is once you actually are awarded a job, you can look at it and say, okay, great, we were awarded this job, and now it flows into the rest of this project. Okay, so moving forward, then there is another webinar that talks about the different states, but you can set up a workflow, and then you have that all set up so that you've won the job from the takeoff, and then it goes into design, and then from design to review, then fabrication, and so on, and all the way to the completion after installation. And all of that's handled through it. So other systems, if you're doing it outside, you then get a quick takeoff and an estimate, but then you lose the ability to, and I'll pull that up right now, you lose the ability to sort of go on to the next state smoothly. Okay. So yeah, bid evaluations, actually I skipped over that, but in bid evaluations, you can evaluate the bids you won, the bids you lost, and you can evaluate pricing and say, okay, well, maybe we're charging a little too much for these signs, so you can change those prices, and you can adjust those, and you can look at them at a much higher level when you have it in a system that sort of keeps track of everything for you. And then working together. So in SignAgent, you can sign plan together. You can also do takeoffs together. So you could have one, let's say you had a team of 3 people, and rather than having one person plan one person plan the other, one person plan the other, you can have, say you have 2 juniors and a senior. You can have the 2 juniors, split up the projects, and one does one does the other. And then the senior does them both, or all the other projects. And that senior person is focusing more on the wayfinding and departments, so the higher level wayfinding signage, whereas you might have the juniors going through and just dotting up the different, say, room IDs, amenity IDs, the things that are don't take as much understanding and the like. So that's another a positive if done correctly. So if done incorrectly, yeah, you're not really sharing the skills, and then there's no libraries, so you're kind of reinventing the wheel every time. I know I put disparate systems in twice, but really you're not having that consolidated and really amount, like there's no knowledge that's being kept. It's being kept sort of in different silos. Bids, again, it's being lost in translation, and actually even mistakes can be made from the bid to the translation. And then trying to figure out like where are the changes in the estimates from, like, well, we won the bid at this, but then we added 25 of these signs and took away 5 of those. So how can you easily show the client that, right? So those are all things that you have to keep in mind. All right, so I'm about to go into the demo section. Yeah, so the first thing what I want to do here is I'm gonna create a new organization. So I log into SignAgent, and I'm actually logged in as sort of Tom the Fabricator, so the guy that was in the previous. And I'm just going to create a new organization. I want to do this new project. And I'm just going to say this is a, we'll just say a Takeoff medical center. And then I'm going to go in here and say, okay, do I want to change any of these things in language? That's fine. I'm just going to save that. And that's going to create a new project. And right off the bat, I get a new project, a new floor plan, and a new sign type. And from there, I want to go to the project. And I'm going to come in here and say, I want to import states. And I'm going to say import states from the new, the multi-unit residential building. And I'm just going to keep the actions, but I'm going to remove the dates. So if there's dates that are assigned to it and the assigned users, I can get rid of. So let's do that. So now it's importing those states. And while it's doing that, I'm actually going to just come in here and say, okay, I want to add, okay, so now it's completed. So if I refresh, I've got now these set of states in there, and then I can just go ahead and delete delete that new state. So now I have my project workflow, and I have my first state being takeoff. And then I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say, I want to import my sign type. So this is, I'm going to do the library approach here. And so I can look at this and say, okay, well, if this was a multi-unit residential, I could come in here and say, well, I've created this library where I have exterior, interior, and parking. And I can dig down further and I can show all my exterior plans and all my others. But I'm not going to go into that because this is going to be my, I'm going to pick from here. So I'm going to say, I want my amenity signs. I want my directionals. I want my identification, and we'll say I want my, I'll just leave those, I guess, for now. So now I'm going to import that, and so now it's importing that list. And then if I come in here, those will show up in a second. And then the other option is for this, I'm not going to worry about doing the location plans, but if I wanted to upload location plans, I'm just gonna plan on top of this. But the next step that you guys would do is you would go to batch import, and then you would find the location plans that you want to plan on top of, and you can drag and drop them in here, and then those will expand into like if it was, you can have a one-page PDF, and then it would pick all the different locations. If it was a one-page PDF, but you had say 10 pages in there, it would pull it out into 10 pages, and then you can pick the pages and you can upload those, and then those will show up in here as well. So let me check one thing here. All right, should almost be imported. Right now I'm just refreshing because I'm trying to jump the process here. So maybe what I'll do then is here, actually, while we're waiting for that, I'm just going to quickly go back in here and I can create a new organization here. And this one I'm gonna do just showing the sign takeoff without a library. And that's in this process, what you can do is just kind of go really quick twitch without having to worry about sign types. And you can quickly add signs and then go through it that way. So this will be, I'll just call it Takeoff Quick University. And then in this one, I'm gonna say, let's just make the auto dot a circle. And then in this case, what I'll do is in here, I'm just gonna, instead of importing one, I'll just show you how you can create without importing it. And I'll just call this Takeoff. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna start to go through here and say, okay, starting here, I'll just walk in, and I guess this could be, you know, maybe there's a sign that would go there, so I can put one there, and then I can just call this a, I don't know, AA1. And when I say AA1, you'll see that it goes to new because the AA1 doesn't exist in the sidebar here. And then if I do a space dash, and then I can actually say, you know, main entrance ID. And then when I save it, it's, I gotta add it to my project. And then when I save it, it's now gonna automatically create a sign ID. And it's actually assigning a color. And I actually changed it so that it's just using a dot as opposed to putting anything else. So I don't have to really worry actually about how I orientated it here, because really we're trying to do this as quick as possible. So in here I can say, okay, well, I'm not going to worry about trying to get it right on the door. I suppose I could get it maybe a little closer, but in here I'm going to say this is a A2 and this is a room ID. And then I hit save. And then this could be a case where, okay, we're going to have the junior person go through and do all the A2s. And now I'm really, all I did was I right clicked and then I saved. And then I can just right click save, 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 right click save. And then we can come in here and say, okay, we've got some washrooms, and then I can click on there and say, this is actually going to be a new sign, and this is like a C1 amenity ID. Again, if this was like California, you would be putting signs there as well. And then if you wanted to even go ahead and do projecting amenity signs, we can say C2, projecting amenity, and then I hit save. And so as I'm doing this, you see that it's creating this library all along this side here. And I can just, you know, quickly go through here and just keep going through. And what it does is it remembers the last piece that you had put in. So it remembers that I had an A2 last. So again, yeah, you could really just say, oh, I'm just gonna quick fire and do all my room IDs. And then, you know, just keep working that way. So now we're getting accurate sign counts. You see here that the numbers are climbing as I go. There's certain things that we can do, like we can, if we said that, let's say that this floor was identical to the floor above as below, I could actually just select all of these. Right now there's a quantity of 1. I can select all of these, and I can either clone it so that I'd copy that whole section and then just move it to the next floor up. Or I could just say, well, I don't want to do that, because if I do that, that means I have 2 sets of signs. And then I end up having to, if I make a change to one, then I have to go and make it change to the other one. So now I can just change the quantity to 2. And then when I hit save, this number won't change, but what does change is the estimated numbers, the estimating numbers. So I'll leave that for now, but then in my room ID, I can edit this, and then I can go to my the details and then to the unit cost. So if this one was a $200 sign, I can say 200, and then I can go to my amenity ID and I can say, well, that is a 250. And then my projecting is going to be, I don't know, 450. My main entrance, I'm just going to say 1,000. Okay, so now I've got all my signs taken care of, and I'm just going to then delete this last one here. And after deleting this, I can now go to my project and I can look at my overview, and then I can see, first of all, I can see the budget of the project, and right now we're sitting at 6,200 of $0 for a budget. So if I wanted to, I can actually say, well, the client actually has 20,000 that they can use. And then when I come back to the budget for this project, I now see, okay, well, now I've got 31% of my project done. Okay, so what this allows for me now to do is I can, keep going through this, and then just keep adding. And as I add the sign types, you'll see that it. And if I go back to that sheet, then afterwards, I can easily see that, yeah, I've got my numbers are going to be increasing, right? So come in here, go back to my view. So now I'm getting closer. So we may have to decide, okay, well, we can't gold plate these signs anymore, or we can say, okay, well, client, your expectations are unrealistic, so we need to up your budget. Especially because we're only on the first floor and I'm only, partially through that floor. Okay, so this is the quick takeoff. It's like you don't have the defined sign types yet, but you're exposing and you're uncovering it as you go. Okay, and you can actually do a bit of both. So when I come back here, I'm going to show the other approach of here's the Takeoff Medical Center. Okay, so now I've got my amenity sign types and I've got my library already set up, and I would have had sign costs already in there for them. So now that I have these set up, I can go in here and I can, again, still do that quick takeoff. So I'm going to say this is my room ID, and this is, we'll put it into Takeoff, and I'm just going to hit save, and I'll turn on the library, and I'll turn on my sign types. This time it actually has a marker indicated, and the sign type actually has more information as well. So again, this is from a previous job or from a template that we've created. So now we're able to repurpose information that we collected previously and learn from those projects. So your projects get richer and richer as they go. And so now I can continue to just, quickly go through this and hit save. And then when this moves on to the next state, I can easily, if this project is awarded, then I can go through and easily say, okay, great, we've won this job. And then I can go in and invite, other team members to take over and actually go through and then do the design and then do the review. And actually maybe this would have even been a little further down the process, because in some cases you may have had the signs were already designed. And so then you're using existing sign types as well. Yeah, and in that case, I guess the third option would be is if signs, if it was coming from a sign designer who actually used SignAgent, then when you're going to do your bid or your takeoff, these positions are actually already here, so that when you're doing your bid and your takeoff, you can look at it and say, okay, well, I've actually got it in here. I'll go to, we can say that let's say this was the project that was being the project you're bidding on, right? So you can look at it and say, okay, well, look, I'm bidding on this project. So how much is it going to cost for me to bid on this project? And then you can look at each one of these. You can look at the costs, and then you can assign the different values to the sign types and give your estimate. But then again, you can just run right with it after the fact as well. Are there any questions?
I have one, Dave.
Okay.
This is Rick Batt with Sign Specialists in California.
Oh, hey, how are you?
Nice to see you again. I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good.
In every case, in nearly every case, when we quote a project, we also quote the installation of the project. And most often the installation is a factor of the complexity or the difficulty of installing a particular sign. Using your example of an entrance sign, that might be considerably more expensive to install than one of these signs that like we're looking at on the screen right now. Is there a way of adding an installation component into the takeoff process?
So not at the moment. That's a great question, though. I do, and that's part of the feedback that we want to hear from our clients and our fabricator clients in particular, of what are the things that we're missing in certain parts of it. So I'd say at the moment now, what you would do is you would include that expenses in that lump sum of the cost. So it wouldn't be just your material costs. You would sort of include the labor cost as well in there, in that one number. You could provide some calculations in the description, but I think we are definitely looking to expand upon that, so that you will be able to have a formula that you can say, well, this is the installation cost, here's the material costs, and even further to look at the profitability of the project. Like that's the path that we're going down. So
it's our installation fees in California are not taxable, whereas product costs are. So lumping them together kind of gives us an odd
right.
That's all said and done. I'm not offering that as a critique so much as just a little bit of explanation, which may help your programmers as time goes by.
Yeah, no, that's a good. Yeah, I think a possible workaround from that is actually just creating a sign type that would be let's say it's an exterior, the pylon sign. You could create a P1 install sign type with it, and then put the unit costs there. That could be an option as well. Right, so if I were to say clone this, and then say this would be P1 installation, and then you can do a P1I, it's a sign type, and then that would be right. And then so you would have both, and then you would just have to, you would put both on there, and then that would be how that could be done as well. So
Thank you.
But I think that's a great, I definitely see where you're coming from, and I do believe that that's where we're going as well. So yeah, thank you. Okay, so here, I'm gonna go back into here. Yeah, so I just had one more note about mentioning, and I had mentioned the collaboration with others. So again, yeah, ability to collaborate with multiple people on that, having different skill levels, doing different things, right? So the more expensive your designer is, you're going to want them working on more valuable parts of the project and not necessarily wasting their time running around doing the small room IDs and the likes. So yeah, you know, I'd be happy to discuss your specific sign estimating needs. So if you can, if you'd like to learn more, please book a conversation, and I'd be happy to talk about it and see, you know, if you're new to SignAgent, we can help set you up with a free trial. If you're using SignAgent or just starting, we can help you with additional training. We can help you set up your libraries so that you can do those takeoffs, so we can get your standards in the system so that you're using it. And we actually do subcontracted sign planning or sign estimating for our clients as well. So if you're like, well, we just don't have the people power to do this project, or we don't have the time for us to be able to get to every single estimate or takeoff, or we can only bid on 50% of the projects that hit our table. You know, we'd be happy to help you out with that as well. Yeah, so I'm hoping that, you know, from this webinar that you're able to see how you can now focus on your planning and implementing your projects, how you can help increase your company's revenue, you can increase your company's profitability, learn from your lost bids, and set your company apart from the competition, and doing all of that while spending less time estimating. And I actually hope that you look forward to your next takeoff. Are there any questions? Were there any questions, Jesse?
The first time when I had no questions come through the chat. Pretty much, I've been riveted by your presentation instead of by the questions.
Well, great. Okay, well, thank you. And yeah, please, don't forget to book a conversation. We want to hear from our clients. Want to hear what you liked about it, how you think we can make it better, and really we want to help you guys succeed in any way that we can. So yeah, thank you so much for your time.